Spectrum Xtra on Radio 1 FM 90. An extra hour of analysis and discussion of the topical issues of the week. Brought to you by Housing Finance Bank, a financial institution regulated by Bank of Uganda. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy.
Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very good evening to you and welcome to this edition of Spectrum Xtra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. This being a Friday, we normally review the week, but today we'll be doing the 2023 at a glance. We'll be looking at what lies also ahead in 2024. So what worked for us, what didn't work, what do we need to change as we go into the new year, where this year is coming to an end. It's at individual, family or national level. It's time to reflect on some of the things that could have worked out for this country, but also things that didn't work out, and how we actually need to address them going forward. In this panel, we have been looking at the major events of the week, so today we want to widen the scope and look at the major events of the year. Now, to do this justice to this discussion, we'll look at the economic aspects, and also we'll look at the political aspects. And as usual, we do value your views. Share with us on your WhatsApp line, on our WhatsApp line, which is 0703 090 090. Tell us what event made your year, and what do you think is likely to happen in our country going forward, politically and economically. And I have a panel of four, and I'll introduce them. Dr. Fred Muhumza, senior economist. He also serves under the Economic Forum of Makerere University Business School. He is also a senior lecturer. He previously served as a senior advisor at the Ministry of Finance Planning and Economic Development. Good evening. It's always a pleasure to have you on Spectrum Xtra, Dr. Fred Muhumza.
Thank you very much. Good evening, our viewers and listeners.
Honorable Paul Mwiru, former Ginger East Member of Parliament. He's now a member of the National Unity Platform Party. He's a lawyer and one of the people who has featured from time to time on this panel. Good evening, and thank you very much once again for joining us, Honorable Paul Mwiru.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers and listeners.
Honorable Stephen Mkitale-Birawa, economist, political scientist, immediate former Blissa County MP, proponent of national dialogue. Thank you very much once again for being with us on Spectrum Xtra, Honorable Mkitale.
Thank you, Kenneth Anderson, and Radio 1 viewers and listeners. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Journey masses for those traveling.
Our fourth guest is on the way to studio. When he arrives, I'll introduce him. Before we actually dig deeper into the big stories of this year, reviewing the major events of the year, how has the year been? There's a big story that happened today from the National Unity Platform Party. Change of leadership there, where we had the party announcing that Nakawa West MP Joel Senyonyi is now the new leader of opposition, replacing Nyendo Mukungwe MP Matthias Impuga, who has now been reassigned as a Commissioner of Parliament. We also saw former FDC whip in Parliament, Kira Municipality Member of Parliament Ibrahim Semoju Nganda becoming the new Shadow Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, replacing Mwanga Chivumbi, who has now been made the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee. Meda Disogona was the chairperson of that particular committee. He has now been sent to another park, which is Kosase, where from the changes we see John Baptist Nambeshe retaining the position of opposition chief whip, where he will be deputized by Mitiana Municipality MP Francis Zake, who also holds another position of shadow minister in charge of presidency and Ministry of Defense. Dr. Abed Wanika will be chairing the Government Assurance Committee, deputized by Mitiana District Woman MP Joyce Bagala. The Shadow Minister of Internal Affairs is Mukono Municipality MP Betty Namboze Bachireke. Number of changes there occurring. Very quickly, I'll begin by getting some of your reflections on that particular development. Dr. Fred Muhumza, your take on this.
Well, I think it's a routine change. For those who know the parliamentary processes, every 2.5 years we expect such changes. So people should not think it's a personal reshuffle. It is a requirement that people change. Now you may want to leave them in there, which for a young party like NOP would work against them, because you would want to rotate your people so that they get exposure in the different areas. For many of them, as we know, this was their first entry into parliament. They have done 2.5 years wherever they have been. So you want to give them some chance to learn more. Another 2.5 years. So by the end of 5 years, you have more people who understand the different committees and the dynamics of parliament. We also saw some of them who maybe fell below par because of they didn't learn the etiquettes of how some of these processes within parliament do work. In summary, we wish them good luck in the new responsibilities and duties that they are taking up.
Any particular comments on the team that has been lined up to the area that you're very conversant with, issues of economy? We're seeing Mwanga Chivumbi has been vocal on the issues of finance planning and economic development. Now he's moving to PAC. We have a new person there who is Chira Municipality MP Ibrahim Semujungada, who becomes Shadow Minister, but also on the accountability committees. We're seeing Medad Segona to Kosase. We are seeing Mwanga Chivumbi to PAC. We are seeing Abed Bwanika going to government assurance, in a number of changes there. Is it a good lineup?
It's a good lineup because they are not so far off from what they have been doing. Mwanga Chivumbi has been criticizing the budget on the allocation side. Now he goes to question the execution side. So it's not going to be that new to him. We have had conversations on accounting officers, issues of that. So I'm very sure, having sent the money there in the first 2.5 years, he now has an opportunity to question what did the money do and complete that cycle. I think Matthias Impuga going to the commission. The commission, most people don't know the role of that commission. It's quite a critical structure of parliament, if I can put it that way. And I don't think there are many people who really would fit in there, knowing the responsibilities of the parliamentary commission. So he's also in the right place. Semijunganda in finance, he's a quick learning person, but he has also not been far away from finance discussions. And he's a good communicator. Sometimes finance is about communication. We always say government, whatever policies you do in economy, it's about communication. What are you communicating? If you're a poor communicator, definitely you fail to make the message. So I think they will be able to continue doing their work. We wish them well, and we'll be watching how they perform. Park, I think Segona, we have seen his ability to question and raise his legal background, but also his way of doing things. I expect some very interesting conversations there.
Very quickly, Honorable Mkitale, your take on these changes?
Yeah, initially I thought we would hear from my Muzukul first.
All right, we can hear from him.
But still, I can.
But Muzukul are coming after their grandparents.
So, I of course, number one is that apart from the routine reshuffles of the standing committees after every 2.5 years, which is also halfway the Xanja, normally seniority and regional balance has always been weighed in. I don't want to go into so much details of the NUP's appointing priorities and what informs their decisions. I would have wanted to have a full picture if my NRM side had also given us their lineup, because at one time, immediately NRM gave a list of our commissioners and understand issues, who can give us alternative policy, whom you know that if he is asked as a commissioner, again Mpuga as a commissioner, he was qualified long ago to be a commissioner, only that this time from LOP to commissioner looks like a bit of a demotion, but he has the character which should be fitting, and I hope NRM brings also
the only thing he will not be doing is
from Zake, of course, much as he had his problems with the speaker and other members, there was a question mark. Is this man right to be a commissioner? I think this time that is resolved.
All right, let's hear from Mr. Twehe. Dr. Twehe, your take on this.
Thank you.
They have lined up for your people in the
by the
house.
15th of this month, that was the time of the expiry of the standing committees and the expiry of the time of the commission. And therefore, they were duty bound to get that done, like even NRM is duty bound to do that. The only immediate comment I can make actually is no is becoming a little more conscious of the public feelings about the conduct of their leaders, especially when you see them trying to realign Zake, not take the lead in any of those major elements. Because Zake was seen as simply a naughty character, much as he would have a point to make, but by replacing him from the commission to move to other areas as a deputy, it means they are now becoming a little more conscious of the public feelings of the conduct of their leaders. And that's a very important element.
Surprisingly, if you went for a referendum, some people within the public would actually support his.
Yes, I know. I know he's doing it also to appeal to a certain club of people, but to most right-thinking persons, I should say that, and I'm not afraid to say so. They are conscious of the conduct of an individual of that nature who appears a little bit more naughty, especially when it comes to management of the public affairs in this particular case. So they have realigned themselves, and I think even NRM is well aware of that. We have been keeping our card on the fold, and very soon we shall put the alignment to get that sorted with them. So I think they have done a great job. I congratulate them.
Will the Central Executive Committee be the one actually looking at it?
We have always done so.
You've always done so. So you already have a list.
We already have it, and we shall look at all those people who are fitting to match the team that they have put across.
Right, thank you very much. Honorable Paul Mwiru, you'll have the last word on this particular issue because you're a member of that party. You can give us insights. There's been a discussion going on for quite some time, and people have been projecting there are going to be changes in Parliament. Some people have been making certain allegations. And I'm looking at the statement made by Honorable Mpuga as he accepted his new position, where he actually said he will be supporting Joel Senyonyi. He said you need to back him up, don't pull him down, don't backstab him. In Luganda, he said, don't make allegations against it. These are things that have been very rife about Honorable Mpuga. But anyway, let's hear from you, your take on these changes. What exactly is going on? What is your party doing?
Thank you, Kenneth, and the colleagues. Maybe before, I wanted to correct a narrative being created, which is always thrown around by the NRM people about Honorable Zake. You see, Honorable Zake is a victim of the politics of the day. When I just joined the 9th Parliament, the decorum there was that the rules of procedure were respected both by the members of Parliament and by the presiding officers. So, and the rules make the Speaker the custodian of the rules. You understand? So there's no way the Speaker would act outside the rules and then would expect a member to act within the rules. So Honorable Zake, in my view, he has been a victim of the politics of the day, and it is not fair to blame a victim. Two, and most importantly, about the changes which have actually happened, these are normal changes within the organization. It is a constitutional requirement by the fact that the committees of Parliament emanate from Article 9 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, where we have the Administration of Parliament Act, which creates these committees, and it creates the tenure of these committees. What I think, to me, I want to congratulate whoever has been designated. To me, it's not a very big appointment because it's like an assigning work. As to whether these people are the correct people to be assigned in those positions, it depends on the appointing authority. Because the appointing authority knows other than loyalty and service, they know better why they appoint particular people. So it would be very unfair at this moment to judge any member to see whether this member will manage or will not manage. Time will tell. As Dr. here has said, by the end of the 2.5 years, the people themselves know what has actually been taking place in this organization. Though, the only issue I want to raise is the question of the criteria. You see, yes, I'm a member, but I want to speak now as a Ugandan, not necessarily as a member. By the fact that I have children in this country, I want to see things that we don't have to need to be redoing, to reinventing the wheel. In FDC, when we were still in FDC, it was a policy position that the most senior in the party who is in parliament becomes the leader of opposition. The rationale was simple, the reporting mechanism. You understand? Because in parliament, the leader of opposition effectively is the top leader in the parliament. At one time, we had an issue where a senior leader was traveling out of the country and did not notify the leader of opposition. So when he returned, the opposition wrote to that leader. I said, please explain your absence. Then the other one said, please, I'm not, I'm your senior. You cannot put it to me in that direction. So he tried to attend the meeting, and when you looked at it, you realized that the problem, you see that the problem now was on how to manage whatever happened, because it had already happened.
The chain of command.
You understand? So it is at a particular point in time that for some reasons there was a paradigm shift in the mode of appointment. Then they opened it to NEC. You understand? And that also has its own issues. That it brought with people robbing, people, engaging into a number of things. Why am I saying that there must be a procedure? For instance, I've been talking to a number of colleagues, like some who had not seen their names on the list. They say, hello, what is, I told them, no, you see, the main objective is not about you being a shadow minister. The main objective is actually take over government. This is just one of the framework we are using. And every member supports each member, because for every member is a member of every committee.
Supposed to work as a team.
To work a team and support some of these positions. So I was telling them, no, let us focus
on
what the main objective. So the point we need is a criteria. Once we develop a criteria on who becomes LOP, what are the qualifications we want to become LOP, to become a chair of a committee. You understand? This will help internally.
In
This will help
party.
Even people to disqualify themselves.
All right.
No, not actually to cause tension.
It seems at this point,
just like
the Secretariat has the authority to deploy.
No, that they do. But see, in politics, in politics, there's what experience.
The party should be powerful than the individual.
No, yes, true. But you see, there are certain things which come with the, like you say, experience comes with time. All the things I'm talking about we have ever seen. Because if people are not properly focused and anchored to the objective of the party, this position thing can become very divisive.
All right.
So that's why there must be a criteria in the future, so that people know that by elimination, if the qualification want to be LOP is this, I don't have those qualifications. I'm not even interested.
For instance, they can say for someone to be LOP, at least they should be serving their second term in parliament. That can be an example.
That's also a proposal.
Experience.
But I think the party would be collecting views, and that's a good one.
All right.
I'll pass it over to our Secretary General.
All right, let's go for a break now. When we return, we'll open up the debate and look at the key issues within the 2023 as we also project 2024. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Extra continues after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Get ready to experience the enchantment at Sheraton Kampala Hotel, your ultimate destination for the season of seasons. Begin your celebration at Seven Seas Restaurant with a delectable seafood feast. Raise a glass at Equator Bar, savoring the festive delight in every sip. Satisfy your sweet tooth at Temptations Cake, where joy takes a delicious form. Immerse yourself in the lobby's enchanting vibes, where the holiday spirit, accompanied by Christmas carols, comes alive. Sheraton Kampala Hotel invites you to experience the season of seasons like never before. Book your unforgettable holiday retreat now. Call us at 0312 322 499 or visit reservations at SheratonKampala.com. Sheraton Kampala Hotel, your home for the holidays.
Click, click, tap, tap. Tap, tap. It's how how we do it. Anytime, anywhere, even on the weekend. Mukafundo bakuboda, ewaka chilling on the sofa. Mu taxi, basi, holiday, any day. Do everything online, chop chop.
That's the sound of convenience. Do everything online, chop chop, without visiting an NSSF branch. Register as an NSSF member or your company. Submit your benefits claim application anytime, anywhere. Download the NSSF Go app from the App Store, Play Store, or visit www.nssfgo.app. Call 0800-286-773. Toll free for more information. NSSF, a better life. Terms and conditions apply.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. The panel today, Dr. Fred Muhumza, Senior Economist, Dr. James Tweheyo, Senior Officer in the Office of the President, Member of the Central Executive Committee, the Honorable Paul Mwiru, former Jinja East MP, Member of the National Unity Platform Party, Honorable Stephen Talabirawa, former Blissa County MP, proponent of national dialogue. Now, gentlemen, let's open up the debate and start looking the year 2023, and I think we should begin from the economic side, and I'll begin with Dr. Fred Muhumza to give us a lead there. How has this year been in terms of the state of our economy, and what are your projections going into the next year? Are we going to be much better? Because ideally that's what everyone is working towards, that's what everyone is looking for, not even at an individual level, but now let's look at the national level.
Yeah, thank you very much. Quite often on matters of projecting what might happen is always a difficult thing in a volatile environment that we are in, both within the region, within the country, and at a global level. We are seeing disturbances of oil transit routes in the Red Sea, which definitely will trigger an increase. But also the OPEC is planning to reduce supply in January so that they can push the price up back into the 80s, $80 per barrel. Those are things we are not able to control, but they might happen to affect us. We are going into winter when a lot of the northern countries, which are rich, demand a lot of oil to heat up their and to do their business, the economic business. So you might see prices either slightly going up or remaining where they are, but the upside, the possibility of them going up will be on the higher side, and that might affect a lot of other things. Inflation is down, but as we've said before, when inflation goes down and prices haven't gone down, you need people's incomes to have gone up in order for them to go back to where they were. You still can't get 2 liters of fuel from 10,000 shillings, which was the case 2 years ago. So until that doesn't reverse itself, you will be getting less of fuel, and also that will affect quite a number of other things like revenue, which comes out of the fuel. So you look through the IMF program that we've been having, which has been anchoring really stability on the economy, especially on the exchange rate. It's supposed to end, I think, mid of next year. So you want to say what is going to happen to our reserves if it's not renewed, or if you don't find other alternative sources of dollars. So you might see the exchange rate also trying to inch towards 3,800 or 900 and stay there. That comes with other implications. So you want to really look at what are these likely negative things, and how do you plan for them. In economics, you want to plan for the worst, not plan for the worst and then be shocked, for the best and then be shocked by the worst. We have seen rating agencies getting concerned. Fitch has given us a B+ with a negative outlook. That's what we are still running on. What is bringing the negative outlook? That the country is not able to access easily concessional loans. So we are being forced to go for non-concessional loans. We are also relying more on domestic borrowing. I think according to their report, we are going to do more domestic borrowing this year. We already have than we had planned to do. The recent supplementary speaks to that. Prospects for reducing the deficit are very limited. So the deficit might continue and affect a lot of services. And as that comes through, it also affects the allocation of resources. So we might see resources not being available to go to the social sectors, education and health. We have already seen resources not able to go to the roads to the levels that they should have, just because debt is eating a bigger percentage. Debt service, interest payment is eating a good big percentage of the revenues. These guys are saying about 20% of URA collections will go into interest payments. And of course, now security costs are also rising, and those will take priority over the others. So you might see a compromise in the area of service delivery, which affects quite a lot of the population. Those are some of the things you want to be looking at. The percentages are not looking good for us. As we've said, interest payments of 21% of revenue for this particular year, FY 23-24. You are looking at debt representing 331% of your revenue collection. Fitch would have said if you had it at 291, not 331, then you would be having a B plus rating, that is medium. But now that's why they are giving us a B plus, that is negative outlook. We need to address some of those issues. They are saying some of them are related to our governance, weak governance, low GDP per capita, and that, of course, as we said, means people are poor. They won't have sufficient demand even to support the other sectors, because you don't set up a factory or a school relying on your own self. You are relying on customers to come in and buy. If those customers are affected, then you are going to also be affected as a factory, which effect you might pass on the banks where you borrowed the money. So we still have a lot of fragilities that we're going to enter into 2024 with. We still have that war in the east, in the west. The Congo is not yet stable. The East African force has moved out. SADC is yet to come in. We don't know how the gap will be closed and when. Although things are still South Sudan. The main Sudan is also not stable. And these are countries really we trade a lot with. Kenya is a big risk come next year. Kenya is our biggest destination for exports. I have seen a lot of increase of imports from Tanzania. Now, these are affecting revenue because imports from Tanzania don't pay taxes, the bulk of them, because of the EAC policy arrangements. If they are coming from China, India, it's a different story. You can charge them. So those are things that are affecting already revenue collection, as we saw.
All right. Very, very quickly, Dr. Tweheyo, your views on the economy, how it has been. What do you think we need to change?
It has been a little challenging because you could clearly see the effect, the after-COVID effects, still biting us. And of course, as Dr. Mumza has said, maybe part of the conduct of government, I must say, has affected ourselves. Because up to today, we have failed to reduce the public expenditure. Every other day it is increasing. And the moment you don't have any discipline in the management of the finances of the country, then that's where the problem comes from. The public spending has continued to increase, as could have been easily seen, and every other person can say that. And of course, much as this, there was some little bit improvement on the prices of oil, which affects every other sector, but still we cannot be sure because of the situation. And the war in Ukraine did not only affect those people there, it equally affected us. And with that situation, I think we are still not safe. And, as the security of the country gets into trouble, then that's where much of the money will go. And it is very clear, this year we have been hit 3 times by ADF. The first time they hit those children in Kasese. The second time they hit those tourists on the way. Only of recent, they attacked Kamwenge, and that means the country is on alert. Besides having managed to struggle to go into Congo and get those wars and all that, of course that's spending. And if we continue on this alert, then I'm telling you it will still be a little bit difficult. The only blessing that we have is that yes, the inflation has been contained, and I would say partly because of the blessings we always say we are gifted by nature, because this year the harvests were in plenty, and therefore the inflation could not be affected by the food prices. That's possibly the major reason, I think, why our inflation has been a little contained. Otherwise, if we had a terrible situation in terms of harvests, I don't know where we would be at this hour. So I think we should continue putting our eyes on the board, because anything can happen in the future, particularly for this country in terms of the economy.
Thank you. I think to me, just to associate myself with some of the submission of Doctor, and and the doctor again.
Dr. Treheyo.
Treheyo.
The two doctors.
The two doctors. To me, the governance issue is still a very big issue because
governance of the economy.
Yes, of the country.
Of the country.
Because it leads to the governance of the economy. You have looked at the financial hemorrhage which has been taking place in the country. There's what we call budget corruption. Doctor here will tell you, as a former senior advisor to Minister of Finance, that the 3% of the budget has always been abused, let alone the supplementary. The supplementary expenditure we are getting. The domestic borrowing, when the Minister of Finance was reading the budget, remember he made an assurance that there's going to be no more domestic borrowing. And it's what actually they are doing. The effect of domestic borrowing is like actually the people, the financial people, the traders are going to compete with the government. And the banks will prefer dealing with government than dealing with the business community in that direction. The other issue is the judicial system. You know, I was talking to some business person who wanted him to come and we pattern. He said he wanted to do some due diligence about how things run here. And one of the points in the brief was the time it takes to dispose of a court case in Uganda. And on average, he had that actually he was looking at 12 years, according to what had been, that the minimum, if you was go up to Supreme Court. There's someone was asking that now, what type of business would I be engaging in? And you know the result, that you either have to issue security or we have to deal on cash basis, and that affects. The other, I think what we need to discuss with the guidance of the technical people like doctor here, these tax exemptions. Because I don't know their effect properly, but they don't go largely. Like if you look at the indigenous people, the indigenous investors, very few enjoy that latitude. They are given largely to the foreigner who do profit repatriation. So at the end of the day,
our tax base remains small.
Base. The last challenge is that we must, maybe the solution, we need to widen the tax base. And as long as 85% of our GDP is within the CBD, which is Kampala, Mukono, Jinja, Wakiso, and 85% of the bulk of the country brings in 15%. So it has to take us to a level of how we must make those other areas very productive so that there is really a return and how they can contribute to the economy. I think those are some of my points. Of course, when I talked about the financial hemorrhage, the budget corruption, of course, like most of the budgeting issues which have been raised over and over again, the automatic policy settlement which our colleagues have been raising in the parliament, it takes us to have the contingency fund so that people know that in this financial year, the provision for this, the contingency fund is this, and you have to take care of the exceptions which will arise. But if you look at budget discipline, there are a lot of challenges which actually we need to address if we are to move in the right direction. Thank you.
All right, let's hear from Honorable Mkitale. Honorable Mkitale, what's your take?
We came out of COVID beaten. A lot of SMEs have not come back. A lot of farms have actually went forever. So we should have put the resuscitation of the economy as a priority. Immediately after COVID, we had the unexpected Russia-Ukraine, or I can call it NATO-Russia battle, which has complicated. Because when the cost of doing business increases even with our trading partners and those who give us some funding, the EU, and it definitely comes down to in a secondary effect. It will affect us. Now, as we're trying to finish with that, the Gulf is not safe. The Zionists and the other ones are called what? These extremists.
The Houthis.
Who are fighting as if they are the most primitive. They should have lived before the pyramids were built 4,000 years ago. But they are doing it today. So you can see, first of all, the world at a global level, there is more money for self-destruction. There is more money for arms race. There is more money for hegemony than money for SDGs. So I think this talk of SDGs and climate change is just a lip service. But in reality, when they need trillions to engage Russia, the trillions of dollars are there. Not the billions Uganda is looking, trillions are there. EU alone has already spent $1 trillion in a makeup for the energy, the cheap energy they were getting from Russia, in terms of all the pipelines, all the sources of energy. So at the international system, there is no hope. Now, why have I started with that? Aware that you have a problem in the global turbulence, you are not so hopeful of depending on external sources. Then you have to do inward-looking policies. When the economy is not doing well, it means the taxpayer is not doing well. Government in the first place should not have been borrowing from the supposed lender to the private sector, so that you resuscitate the private sector to pay taxes. Now, when you short circuit them, the crowding out effect, then then do you expect that you will have money? So it is a cyclical. The moment you do that, you will fail to pay the domestic areas. Even the very loans you get domestically, you will not service them. It becomes you start calling them refinancing. You giving them pet names. In Unyoro we have pet names. Last time you say rescheduling, refinancing, but basically you are saying for the last 5 years you are not meeting those obligations. Now, this is a double tragedy, because at the same time you are borrowing externally, no longer from the concessional sources. You are now getting commercial loans, short term, because the World Bank, for example, the idea will give you 40 years loan period with 10 grace at 0.7. The government now borrows at 6%. 6%. And for 15 years, for 20 years, and some of them no grace period. So my concern is that I am not seeing an exit plan out of this quagmire, out of this debt crisis. Now, what then should we be doing? Aware that you're not having resources, the revenue, URA cannot perform miracles anyway. After all, 30% of your budget is now financing, is debt servicing. Common sense would prevail, like this Christmas, if I'm not doing well. There are things I can't do with. So there are costs of running government which we don't need. I am an advocate of regional government. I said it when COVID had just struck. Can we go zono? That time when they said, bring all vehicles to Kampala, I said, no, let's look at regional referrals, put capacity, because the first Kampala can bring all trucks. I said, but we have regions. So by now, all efforts, these floods, these road challenges, the regional government is a very big solution, and at least focusing those 15 regions makes sure that everything can be done there. You are reducing cost as opposed to the very many districts, which basically districts are not doing anything in areas of service delivery, because the money they should have got in utilities, health and education is debt servicing. And we got this warning long ago. The issue of mergers and rationalization, when my senior Muruli Mukasa minister brought the omnibus proposal of my rationalization, the old man was just from parliament as if it's not important. And you could clearly see there is a possibility that these entities supposed to be merged are now lobbying individual MPs to defend them to remain as a cost center, because these are just cost centers which you should do away with. You've seen the challenge of course the supplementary. I wish it was not avoidable, unforeseen, and the revenue source was clear. But you're borrowing from a very bad source. At the same time, the citizens a boy died because he was held at school for school fees. Very many did not sit exams because of UNEP fees. UNEP and the government is giving directive to directors of private schools that allow them to do exams. But when they came out of COVID with the crisis, you didn't give them a stimulus which you promised. So who is fooling who? So there's a very big challenge. So I would like to say that we really need a serious paradigm shift. We cannot continue doing business as usual, because clearly the economy is not resuscitating. We can see the nightlife has failed to come back in this country. I travel many times late. The traffic I used to find on my Chigumba Masindi road coming from all directions of the North Sudan and is not there. These petrol stations where we used to stop at Niger and find all of them busy at night, very little traffic. So, and why am I bringing this? Why we survived largely the last 5-10 years has been the regional markets. We are doing well in Sudan, we are doing well in DRC. Now we have battles with. By the time Sudan questions the standard of your food, then you have a problem. Because before Kenya, I thought it was some politics and malice. But by the time
South Sudan,
which I can say partly created by Uganda, can reject, say we have aflatoxin, then the problem is there. So what I would want to say, let's reduce the cost of administration. Let's merge these entities. If we think that government vehicles of individuals, let's do mass transport. We all sit in buses, we go and do our work like we do when we are abroad, and we put this money in the low-hanging fruits, where we know that these ones will give us quick return on investment. I've just come from the oil region, and I am seeing 12,000 temporary camps using recoverable costs are being invested in a supposedly high-end tourism destination. The Maxon Fall, the Rich Bunyoro, the other side, the Kirot Springs, the River Nile, which will remain the second longest Maxon Fall. If they were putting at least some 400 here, and these are high-end hotels. Even the policemen remain with some houses. Even there's some teachers. But our teachers are in Gura such houses. Our policemen are in Mama Ingia Pole. Then you bring very expensive temporary. Because you can do temporary structures in countries like Canada, which are having excess housing. But in the oil and gas policy says that we shall use the oil and gas windfall for the finite industry to build a long-lasting, non-oil, diversified economy where tourism, agriculture, and others. But to say we are accompanying the oil companies who are here for short-term interests. For us as a country, as a government of NRM, we have long-term. So we have to balance the investors' short-term interest to make the oil rich Tanga. But for us, it has a cross-generation equity. How do you make sure the host community benefits? How can you create tourism of these 12,000 beds, which would employ millions years after oil is gone? That thinking is not there, and I'm worried because I thought we have been hard hit, we should be wiser, and we should be making much better way forward.
All right, Spectrum Xtra on Radio 1 FM 90. We need to go for a break, but I have a couple of comments that have come in as we wait for that break to actually happen. We have comments. Spectrum Xtra, could Chagulanyi have got Nabanja's match on Senyonyi? I think Semuju will wake up Mzee of Finance, but the biggest test will be if our Honorable Mpuga will toe the line. We have another comment, Subi Henry from Makerere University. Thanks for the show. The world does not accept a vacuum by principle. Every person has a special ability and character. Once offered space, chance, their hidden abilities will be exhibited. I congratulate Honorable Joel Senyonyi. Uganda doesn't lack money, it lacks what to do with it. We have left water transport, which is highly lucrative and minimizes road destruction. You save money on road costs, road maintenance costs, hence save money for other sectors. Apparently, on the economic side, we are ending there when we have this huge problem of roads, not only in Kampala, but also here in many districts. But let's go for a break now. When we return, we'll shift our gears and look at some of the issues that are coming in from the political side, which also directly affect how the economy works in our country. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Xtra continues after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Get ready to experience the enchantment at Sheraton Kampala Hotel, your ultimate destination for the season of seasons. Begin your celebration at 7 Seas Restaurant with a delectable seafood feast. Raise a glass at Equator Bar, savoring the festive delight in every sip. Satisfy your sweet tooth at Temptations Cake, where joy takes a delicious form. Immerse yourself in the lobby's enchanting vibes, where the holiday spirit, accompanied by Christmas carols, comes alive. Sheraton Kampala Hotel invites you to experience the season of seasons like never before. Book your unforgettable holiday retreat now. Call us at 0312 322 499 or visit reservations at SheratonKampala.com. Sheraton Kampala Hotel, your home for the holidays.
Terms of business with Housing Finance Bank and meet your business needs with ease. Get unsecured bid bonds of up to 500 million shillings within 24 hours. That's not all. Housing Finance Bank is also offering other short-term facilities, including performance guarantees, advance payment guarantees, contract financing, export and import financing, invoice discounting, and so much more. Contact our trade finance team today on 0417 707 595. You can also call our contact center on 0800 211 082 or WhatsApp 0771 888 755 or visit any of our Housing Finance Bank branch nearest to you. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy. Housing Finance Bank is regulated by Bank of Uganda, and customer deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Terms and conditions apply.
Mwami Kavuma, did you see the Land Cruiser Mr. Kasoro bought for his wife? The man has put us on a place. Tenga is retired.
Tata Junior, you see what your friends are doing for their wives?
Kwe, you didn't hear?
Hear what?
Jubilee Life is giving people money. You just get your retirement money, invest it with them, and they give you more money every month with interest.
With interest?
Yeah.
It's true. Jubilee Life Insurance is here to ensure that you retire in style. Invest in the Jubilee Income Drawdown Policy and gain access to your retirement funds with guaranteed interest every month. Contact them today on 0800 211 711. Jubilee Life Insurance Company of Uganda Limited is regulated by the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Uganda.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Extra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. We're looking at some of the key events of the year 2023 as we also try to project what is likely to happen in the year 2024. We began by looking at the state of our economy and issues that we need actually to address as we go into the new year. And the panelists ably there made their points. In studio, Dr. Fred Muhumza, senior economist. He also a senior lecturer at Makerere University Business School. Dr. James Tweheo, senior officer in the Office of the President, member of the Central Executive Committee of the ruling party, the NRM, where he represents workers. The Honorable Paul Mwiru, former Jinja East Member of Parliament, member of the National Unity Platform Party. The Honorable Stephen Mutalevirawa, economist, political scientist, immediate former Blissa County MP. My name is Kenneth Lukaganda, your host. Dr. Muhumza, would you want to tie up any of the issues that have come up on the side of the economy, given some of the comments that have come in from our listeners? People are concerned about the state of our roads, but also someone here said that we actually have money, we just do not understand where to put it. Could that be possible?
Of course, people think you have money. If you have other people's money, you have borrowed money, you're only swimming now. Tomorrow you will be skinned dry. And that's what I said earlier, that interest payment on the domestic debt is 20% of your URA revenues. And that is fixed. So whether URA finds the money or not, the 6.5 trillion remains. You'll have
and it must be found.
You'll have to find it.
It's a first call on the record.
Now you get to a level where you are borrowing to pay the debt. Now you can't say you have money. And as the Honorable Mukitale put it, you are not seeing an exit out of that situation.
So what do? You continue to borrow, or you?
Now that's why you have to say, how
according
do
to
I
the
now
cloth?
scale down? And that's the whole discussion of rationalization, not just of agencies, but of the entire government. You have to scale down your expenditure in order to focus on how do I reduce this debt. We went through this in the 90s and the 80s, structural adjustment. We scaled down government, and this is the only option. I still see people who hate structural adjustment, but it saved the day. The last good growth rates this country has posted was in the 90s, and they were a result of those processes. If you put yourself there, don't blame the doctor giving you a painful medicine. It's you who put yourself there. So I don't see an option now. As we have said, interest payment is a big chunk that is going there. The next one is security. You're not going to compromise on security. We have seen these attacks, and every time they don't happen, it doesn't mean the enemy wasn't planning. It's just because the security was smarter and prevented that attack. But that smartness comes with a cost. Now, once you put money in debt service and security, you are left with no money to beef up your social services, education and health. We have seen a lot of deterioration at hospital level in some of these areas, but also you begin to lag on critical investments needed in infrastructure, especially roads. We are talking about food. The food cost is going to go up, partly maybe because of the increase in the global price for oil, but also the cost of transporting food within the country. Every time a fuso moves on a road, it is coming and ending up in the garage. Now, that person has got to find, how do I pass on this cost to somebody? So those are the kinds of things you want to look at and say, how do I get out of this? The bottom line is reduce government spending in order to begin, and I'm just saying begin, bringing your debt back to manageable levels. What is in Kenya is going to come in here, and we're not going to increase our revenues. Because as I always say, URA cannot collect taxes if I have not taken the soda, or have not put that fuel in my car, or have not bought that phone. It can only do so if I have done the spending. They are doing well on pay as you earn, because the people who are still having their jobs are paying. But the consumption taxes, which are supposed to be the bulk of the revenues, are going to suffer because of muted aggregate demand. And that, of course, triggers a downward spiral that you can only stop by going back to who is the problem? Mr. Government. Can you behave? That's my question.
All right, Honorable Kitali.
You see, we started with the economic side, and we are supposed to go into the political. But I don't want to leave out the social issues, security issues, and because at the end of the day, they affect the economy.
They are linked.
This corruption, as a procurement person, I believe that 30% of our budget goes to fund this corruption. The procurement process in this country, until we centralize high value procurement, we centralize common user items so that we can get bulk prices, standards of all these computer related things, stationary things, and even some of this machine and equipment which government gets. We can save a lot of money, and through that we could actually we could have an industrial policy to inform an import substitution. You get a contract on condition that in 5-6 years you are given some targets of having a line of production. You can start with assembling, it's okay, but in 5 years, we are entering the bigger East African community as we look into the African continent free trade area. I want to congratulate those who have removed the visas, including Kenya, who says it's a visa-free country, and also welcome the Somalis, which last time we talked about here. But how do you make sure that you are creating Uganda by deliberate industrial policy that when government is procuring, is going to create suppliers of Sudan, suppliers who can compete in Congo, who can also go in Somalia, which has been failed and fragile for the last almost 20 years. I don't see that energy. So for us to just spend government money as if it's fire and forget, Police is also trying to procure this, another Nakapiripit is trying to procure. How? That's not best practice in procurement. Buyers and end users make requisitions. They don't buy. They can have a vote on the budget, but the actual function of procurement should be centralized, and that's when you can get the gains. So that if you say we are importing this kind of road equipment, like when we go to Konoike, it came with Bugembe, a full maintenance workshop. We even had that time was in the private sector on the side of the Japanese. You even have the mobile. Every zone had a mobile so that you can service. But today, you can get a third party saying he's a Komatsu, and he gives you equipment in government without any after-sale service, without any capacity, and the country thinks further into more debt. So there are policy directions. For me, we spend too much discussing, even when I was in parliament, expenditure, aware that the revenue is not coming. Let's first deal with avoiding where we know there is a leakage, and corruption is a lot there. Procurement is one area where we can reduce. I had earlier mentioned the areas of restructuring which Dr. Mumza has added on, and that's where we should be going. Now, again, this country, I have seen two things as an advocate of regional government, but also I have seen as an advocate of national building, national dialogue, that our regions have capacity. Let me congratulate my Muzukulu, the Chabazinga of Soga, for his very good wedding which he had. And also when Busoga came for the Catholic Church in Namugongo. Clearly Busoga, if given a mandate, and I mean other regions, they have capacity to mobilize the resources and inform their destiny.
All right.
This Kampala dependent, everybody has to come to Kampala to beg. I don't want to go to the bishops. I hope that's not the reason why they don't come.
All right.
The bishop who gets a vehicle from State House don't come to pray for you.
All
so
right.
we really have a challenge that government cannot do everything. Let's go back to PTA. Let's go back to Burunji once. All our kingdoms, all our cultural institutions, and our regions can do like this education. These schools were belonging to the faith.
All right.
The Catholics, the Anglican, the Muslims will run their schools much better than the LOC 5 and LOC 3.
All right. Now let's shift our gears and look at the politics in 2023 and what lies ahead in 2024. And I'll begin with you, Dr. James Toheyo. 2023, the politics and the governance issues. What made the headlines for you, and where do you think we are heading in 2024?
2023 had a lot, of course, with the increased human rights issues, with the increased corruption issues, with the increased walkouts and struggles in parliament, with the, of course, the struggles for funds and money within parliament and outside parliament, and you remember the other issues of saying, I got 40 million, me, I never got it, me, I returned it, me, I was deceived to return it. All those stories were in, and they actually formed the major part of politics.
You mean
but
the last 100?
The last 100 we have heard of it.
There are reports that there is more.
We have heard of it. No, of course,
mere reports.
It is said, but I don't know whether it is done. There's a difference between when it is said and done. So we have heard of those. Of course, we have had the Electoral Commission making a mention of the possible roadmap for the elections that are yet to come. And we also saw the NRM party itself making inroads on the possible roadmaps. All of those have brought a little bit of anxiety and excitement in the public. But also, beyond the politics, of course, the government operations also matter. We have seen, for example, the entertainment industry, especially the sports and games, competing for CAF, and we are to be hosts. The 2027, we won that. We enjoyed the wedding of our Chabazinga, and many other luxuries of that nature. Of course, such a wedding had some elements of politics, although it was majorly cultural and traditional. So all those come in and they affect a number of issues. Actually, it is interlinked with the economy. For example, when you talk of the PDM and others and how they are working and how people are borrowing money and using it for buying materials for going to Kwanjura, it affects somebody who will borrow money and put a full of things going to for introduction. And at the end of the day, you have to pay back. And by the time you have to pay back, you have had some issues with your family. Either your wife has run away or you have also escaped to go out and left the wife alone. So all those issues have affected really the livelihood of our people. Of course, this year has become more interesting by adjusting the tempo of the politics and the excitement. We used to see the youth running around with our young brother Chagulanyi. Then the other time, the youth were running around with our young brother Muhozi. Now, and for the first time, we saw His Excellency the President a little quiet. Interestingly, has just started coming up. So the tranquility that has come up within the politics of the country has become a little bit more civil. Instead of the fights, we have seen the walkouts. Instead, so such struggles, I think if we continue with some growth in maturity in politics, we shall get a little better. Of course, there are a number of other issues we could look at. One of them is corruption. We must admit, whether in or outside government, corruption is almost hitting the ceiling. It is almost hitting the ceiling. Land grabbing is one of the biggest challenges that we have had in this particular era. And it is affecting both those in government and those outside government. And if the situation continues like this, particularly the corruption situation and the land grabbing situation, I'm afraid these issues will affect the politics directly. Because I don't think anybody whose land has been grabbed, whether by whoever, will be comfortable with the government. Not, even if you are the one. And partly, I want to account for that. It could have been one of the effects of the politics of changes in Buganda, in the central area of this country. Because the most affected area was the central. Michana, Mubende, Nakasongora, some areas around Masak. So if the situation is not clearly handled and streamlined, then I'm afraid things are going wrong. Of course, this time around, we are not like 2022 when we had the Vijambias, when we had all those happening. There have been some little bit of calm, although, of course, we have lost many lives in such a rough and other ways, especially the ADF, but somehow there have been some little bit of calm. Maybe the good thing I should say, let me mention some few good things. Yes, the pipeline has hit the coast now, the oil pipeline, and possibly sooner or later, oil will be pumped out, and we have hopes that perhaps if it does, then things will go right. For the first time in history, I have seen some ministries realizing that if they continue renting, they'll be in trouble, and the Ministry of Education has launched the first project of constructing the headquarters. The UNEB exams went on well, you know it, the education sector, they went on well. Of course, it can't go fully without any hitches, but there are issues. Surprisingly, when we talk of the economy, even some universities, my brother Muhumza will tell you, have had a number of lecturers, especially those who are doing private, going unpaid, and it is hitting them terribly. All those situations we must mention. It is not only the politics within the country itself, what we normally look at politics, but every other thing that affects the political lives and the social and economic lives of our people, they tend to incline and tamper with politics. If you are not paid somewhere, you are an angry man, and somebody is coming to look for a vote from you,
it will not happen.
It will not happen.
All right, let's hear from Honorable Paul Mwiru on the political front.
Well, thank you, Kenneth. The first has been the question of human rights. Just as you had indicated earlier, Yesterday we had prayers at our headquarters, where we extended an invitation to all the religious leaders in this country, in the major sects. We expected them to turn up and lead these prayers because they're the nexus to human rights. And the human rights are not partisan. Because at least there's a holiday which was declared because a religious leader was murdered in cold blood. When they gazetted that a public holiday, even us, the politicians, we are inconvenienced by that day because of our work days, a public holiday. There was a call to the religious leaders that as they go to State House to pray when President Museveni has organized any prayer, who happens to be the chief violator of these rights, maybe they needed to be around. They hear the
Why would you call
stories.
him a chief violator?
Because they're in charge of government. Of course, the biggest tortfeasor is government, the violators, despite the fact that the Constitution creates a duty under Article 20, Sub-Article 2, on the state and organs of the state to ensure that there's enjoyment of rights. You understand? All what we're not asking for much from the religious leaders, because it should have been a lot of statements, one after another, that there was need of an investigation, even listen to the victims.
And we have ended the year without that issue being resolved.
The victims were there. We expected the justice to listen to the victim on our side, and then but
the families of the victims.
The families of the victims, and then pray for us as the shepherd. We thought they had the duty so to do, but it's not too late. All is not lost, because even us as political players, we belong to some of these sects. So I don't want to say that they owe us an apology, but they must go on for soul searching.
So you people are gripping because the religious leaders do not show up.
We are not, and we are not, like personally.
When you invite somebody, they can turn up or not do so.
We don't even condemn them for going and praying where President Museveni is. But we are saying we should be treated the same way because we belong to those
but I can give information to my Muzukula. At least last evening, the Archbishop of the Catholic Church, Archbishop Simogere, at least sent a strong message to government condemning all the excesses and the injustices in his end of the year.
The issue is they wanted the religious leaders.
That was damage control.
To be part of
we want this country. When you read our constitution, the preamble, it talks about our history. The stigmatization of the opposition in the country, you understand, is what we are saying that actually it forces us to think.
Is it stigmatization or abandoning?
No,
that issue of human rights
it is broad.
Remains an issue.
Because it has caused the shrinking of the political space.
All right.
To the extent that even whoever gets a penny from the constituted fund now even fears to associate with the oppressed. You understand? For fear that maybe the vehicle will not come, or the donation to the circle will not come, and we have no problem with them taking that direction, if they so choose. But since they put on a coat of being religious leaders, we make a call to them to be neutral, and then when they go to pray maybe for the oppressors, they should come and pray for the victims. Now I'm going to that. Secondly, you see all these human rights violations lead to the shrinking political space. Because if you look at the victims of these violations under the hands of the state, that actually, you see, I saw people from all over the country. I saw those from Busoga. You saw that the son was the sole breadwinner to his family, and they were supporting the mother. So to those families, even coming near politics, you understand, If anybody wanted to go to protest, so please don't even try to support someone. Yet, the right to vote is a non-derogable right, because that concept power belongs to the people. So the question of human rights must be properly revisited, because now we're also praying for the religious leaders that actually they see sense in what we are saying.
All right.
The other question is the question of is the land question. We have, I think my brother here, Dr. Treheyo, I think may even be shared. We have proof where people have approached us and given us information that these land issues, also the Baralo, in most parts of the country, they have the mineral maps. They are settling largely in where they even also where there are these minerals. So we call upon the government or any non-government organization which may not be said to be partisan.
That's really substantiated.
Yes, now I'm telling you. And you see, as a journalist, he knows that I must also protect the source of my information. But because I know you know that I speak from an informed point of view, we are now raising a red flag. Because you see, when people came to settle in Busoga, you know, the speaker asked for the mineral map. Wherever there are those minerals, people have titles now on that land. You understand? They have mining licenses from the Ministry of Energy, and they have not done any mining, and they have been having those licenses renewed. So I think, Doctor, from an economic point, but will also help. So the land question, we need to free land. And that's why we need to see the Uganda Land Commission. Because there are issues where people, they are absentee landlords holding on to the land in terms of title. There are few squatters on the land. So at the end of the day, there are fights between the landlord and the squatter, and land is not being put to productive use. So we need to see government come in under the land fund, free government, and advertise and allocate to potential investors to use that land to contribute to the economy. The other issue, I think a doctor will guide me here. I have been thinking we need a moratorium on these loans, because it has become just fashionable that because these loans have become part of budget support, that every now and then we must have these loans. And these loans have a toll on the budget, and because there have been some shifts which we have made. For this before, anybody, if Dr. Mumuza would come across someone who's willing to lend, they would come and they just moved it. Through Parliament, we push them to realign it to the National Development Plan and their work plan and budget of an entity. There was a resistance. We caused the ministry, we caused the National Planning Authority to look at these loans and realign them to the National Development Plan. Now, what we need to do is, I think, an analysis, a study, to see that because we are moving, because there is even the debate as to whether we have hit the ceiling or have not hit the ceiling. But must you hit the ceiling to know that we are being suffocated by these loans? So at the end of the day, money is being budgeted. It does not go into the production sector.
All right.
It goes into production relations other than production. Then the final thing is the appointment of the Electoral Commission, the term of the chairperson, and almost all the commissioners. I think it is this month. It is ending this month. We saw the first commissioner left office because she had been appointed for the second time, and the law does not allow someone to serve more than 2 terms. We have seen the president quiet about this very serious organization, and as a result, we shall see complaints, and they don't have a lot of time. Then the very last one is about the challenges in the political parties. As you have seen, you see, it is General Muntu who always say you cannot give what you don't have. So there is a call on these political parties themselves. If you want to give democracy to the country,
you better be democratic yourself.
You better be how democratic are you in order to give the democracy?
All right, let's bring in Dr. Mumza very quickly. Dr. Mumza on the politics, and then respond to some of the economic issues that Honorable Mwiro has put across.
Well, the politics will always be there and is very disruptive these days. As Honorable has indicated now, the borrowing is no longer speaking to development. You don't even need a study. Because if you can borrow, like I've seen figures for September, the Minister of Finance report, we borrowed about 1.2 trillion and we are only left with 12 billion, 1%. The bulk went back into debt servicing. So that is not.
We are borrowing to pay a debt.
And you're borrowing 100%, you remain with 1%. So certainly that is not speaking to your realities of the day. But also it goes back to where is the budget going. I've seen the supplementary, and I'm like, really, there are certain things, as they always say. Was it unavoidable? Was it unforeseen? Could it wait? Now, the things that really wouldn't have waited here are the roads that we are seeing. You are still allocating, I think it was, did I hear 45 billion to a machine to go and peel bananas? Really, if 45 billion was given to SFC, it could have done a few kilometers in this Kampala potholes. I'm even seeing ministers now complaining and threatening to go on riot. But this is not to forget what is even happening in hospitals. I keep getting information from the grassroots and what is happening in the hospitals. You are a midwife, you don't have even the basics to help these patients. And now you will go to a hospital and say, why did you ask money from this person before you do the operation? What am I supposed to do as a health worker? Because I don't have anything. The only thing I have is the knowledge in my head. So when you ask this patient to say, bring some 500,000, we do the operation, it doesn't mean this doctor is taking it. Is it literally going to buy the drugs you need and other supplies? So we are seeing these things push us there, and it's just because the debt is not allowing us any what we call fiscal space to do any other thing that we would want to do. And as we've said, the moratorium won't help because you still have to borrow to fund security and to pay the debt itself. So you must get back to a situation and say, how do we cut government spending to create this space in the first place? Now, the building, Minister of Education will still need to borrow to build because you do not have your own money. I think a lot of decision making is politically driven, and until we clean up that political space and sober up, we are going to continue messing up economic fundamentals.
All right, Spectrum X on Radio 1 FM 90. Let's go for a break. When I return, I will read out some of the comments that are coming in from the listeners and also allow Honorable Mkitale to weigh in on the political side of 2023 and also help us to project what is likely to happen in 2024. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum Extra continues after this break.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Navimala, if your financial protection, Navimala, if your financial protection, Navimala, Nani Moliba, Jukiza, Investor Plus, your dreams are covered. Protect, save, invest in one plan. Hey, Navimala.
Get a Pro Investor Plus policy from Prudential and secure your financial future today. Prudential, let's face life together. Turinawe. Prudential is regulated by the Insurance Regulatory Authority.
Lake Victoria Hotel Entebbe brings the festive holiday early with festive offers on accommodation. Christmas family luncheon from 12 p.m. with lots of entertainment, disco, live band, animations and games. Celebrate the end of year party on 31st December at Lake Victoria Hotel. Poolside dinner dance with live band and 120,000 shillings per person. Then disco ushering into 2024 with fireworks. Entrance for fireworks is only 10,000 shillings for adults and 5,000 shillings for children. It's an all-night party. Book early on 0312 310 100.
Kampala Wakiso Mukono, it's your time! Government has answered your call. Say goodbye to an endless malaria because the government has brought you free and safe mosquito nets. All you have to do is to register everyone in your family with your VHD or community health worker when they come to your home. Remember to go pick your mosquito nets on the day and the place communicated by your VHD. Don't be among those who be complaining. Me, I did get mine. Government here to Yambe. Malaria is so expensive to treat. The government has given you what you need to chase malaria out of your home. Registration for and distribution of mosquito nets in Kampala, Wakiso and Mukono will take place from the 14th to the 22nd of December 2023. Together we can chase malaria out of Uganda. Ensure everyone in your family sleeps under a mosquito net every night. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from the Global Fund.
Spectrum Extra, Fridays 7 to 9 p.m. on Radio 1 FM 90.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us. This is Spectrum Extra coming to you live on Radio 1 FM 90, live on its website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word listen live. We are also live on the different radio listening apps, TuneIn, AfroMobile, your TV channel, Radio Garden, and Stream Afrique. Radio 1 is also live on DSTV, audio channel 897, and on StarTimes, our audio channel is 97. My panel today, Dr. Fred Muhumza, Senior Economist, Dr. James Tuaheo, Senior Officer in the Office of the President. We have the Honorable Paul Mwiru, Member of the National Unity Platform Party, the Honorable Stephen Mtalawirawa, Economist, former Blissa County Member of Parliament. We are looking at 2023 and what lies ahead in 2024. I have a couple of comments coming in. We have a comment from Honorable Emmanuel Lumala Dombo, that is the Director of Communications at the NRM Party Secretariat. Says, I think religious leaders could not preside over prayers organized by forces of change when the scriptures require them to fear God and respect those in authority. Even if it was NOP in government, it would not be fair to do so. In 37 years, no religious leaders have been killed as it was in the past. Our MPs should hold government accountable to observe human rights. That's a comment there from Honorable Emmanuel Lumala Dombo.
They had also refused the Sobis.
Robert Inikumi, Spectrum Extra on the economy. If we could only make Ugandans projects and not making President Museveni Uganda's project. Can economists like Dr. Mumza tell this country what has been the cost of giving President Yoweri Museveni in power? Then we have somebody listening in from Ottawa, that's in Canada, Joseph there, says, good evening, Spectrum Extra. To NUP changes, I agree with Mwiru that low position should be occupied by the senior members of Parliament. I don't see Joel fitting in those shoes. Otherwise, changes are healthy. I pray that the team remains together and not swayed away by social media statements. Wish you a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Joseph, and thank you very much for tuning in all the way in Ottawa. Mukitale has so many good ideas, but where do they end? That's another question from somebody who is listening to us. Good evening, Kenneth and your guest. I'm disturbed by the reasoning of those government admirers like that one in studio. I don't know who they are talking to. They are talking about, probably that person knows themselves. Still citing COVID and recent security issues as the reason for our economic wars. Burkina Faso's new 34-year-old Ibrahim Traore, as in the shortest time in office, cancelled unfair mining concessions, and yet big chunk of his country is occupied by jihadists. Address this endemic corruption, bloated civil and political leaders, etc. Grace in Seta, things are really not good. The unending list of priority payments in the Ministry of Finance on the IFMS system has edged out payments to other suppliers. One now needs to do a chintu kidogo for a payment to exit from the Ministry of Finance. Good evening to you all, gentlemen. Very few people understand that English. That English. Abraham from Dokolo. The rains didn't favor we the farmers. For that reason, many are not sure of sending the children to school come February. People are committing suicide due to failure to pay borrowed money from SACCOs. Where are our priorities? Honorable Paul Mwiru, though in opposition, seems to undermine his colleagues' aspirations. Mzee Kaguta is the most experienced leader, and Honorable Chagulanyi is a novice in comparison. So Honorable Mpuga and Senyonyi have similar differences. That's a comment from a listener known as Pat. Honorable Mkitale is talking of economic integration, which has been pursued right from the bush. What is his faith in this going forward? Then somebody else says, Kenneth and the panelists in studio, I am Wilson Bikakanga Muyenga. The government borrowing from our commercial banks is already affecting our access to credit. Even the so-called SBRF is not being released, with banks hiding behind endless terms, conditions, bureaucracy. In the end, they suggest lend their product at 30%. I'm a testimony to that because we are undergoing that process now, which has taken about 4 months. Those are some of the comments that are coming in. More, we shall reflect on them as the discussion continues. All over Mukitali.
In 1994, before the promulgation of the 95 Constitution, I did talk about the power retention. If you can, and I'm trying to bring the politics and economics, if you can spend your budget on power retention with UPE, with good health programs, and the dividends are that you get more votes. When the people have no potholes, when people have good health care, that would be no offense. Let me first thank the taxpayers who have kept us this far, much as their money is no longer enough and possibly the priorities may have a question mark. I am worried at a time when citizens, I mean, if they are informed and know their rights, duties, and obligations, the taxpayers, if they give up on us, there is this common word these days that I am worried the legitimacy of our political class, of the elite, because you cannot this week have a 3 trillion supplementary borrowed from very expensive money. Then you are saying former vice president, the two former vice presidents, the NRM chairperson, 37 years, come for a 700 million car. It stinks. The immorality, the bad timing. I was there in Parliament when the first law was
people
made.
put that in the law.
Yes, but even my preliminary objection was that what message are we sending that a person who is most paid, most privileged, needs to be supported by the peasants, taxpayers' money to earn a decent living? Because I was saying this is the first time I was the chairman pensions board in Parliament, and for me I was looking at the safety net, social protection, pensions issues, the challenge of how can you fail to provide social protection of the common man, and now you are talking of investing heavily in that debate. Now, my very interesting social issue, which is also political.
Very quickly.
We lost two important people in this month.
All right.
Mr. Katanga.
I'm afraid, Honorable Mukitala, I have to cut you short there. We're getting instructions that we have to go to State House for a live broadcast by President Yoweri Museveni, where he's giving his New Year's message.
Yeah, but you can write books about it.
And I guess that brings to an end Spectrum Extra for this particular edition.
FM